Hello everybody, Здравствуй, Olga.
Hello.
Okay, and Olga would like to start with the only thing before Olga starts, she want to ask you. We are traveling in Europe right now quite a lot, and we are making a lot of conferences and doing, making a lot of videos. And it makes Olga's memory mixed a little bit up with what we have been talking and been planning for this time. So what we have been discussing last talk, what we are going to talk about this time. So if at some point Olga repeats herself, maybe you can tell this to us, and then we will skip it, and in order not to repeat also, because the open talk, last talk is online. And the question is indeed quite good. And yesterday we are here surrounded by people who are taking part in this process and helping us. And yesterday we had a talk about this with these people. And we are going to in this direction, because today we are talking about cleansings, and last time we have been talking about food. So Olga will continue. The last question last time was like this. We have been talking about the inner fire. The question was how to ignite it. And Olga said that we have enough fire within us, but certain circumstances distinguish it and have an unpleasant effect on it. And Olga was asked what circumstances these are. The first circumstance is, of course, the neutralization of the toxins in the body. So, of course, if food decays within us, this takes our energy, and our fire will be used to fuel this process. So this is one thing. And aside from this, we have fungi and different parasites. So we have to deal with them as well. And from this point of view, our immune system has a major role, a major part to play. And right now, our immunity. We have here a seminar on enlightenment and pranic breathing and breatharianism. And here's a woman. And here in Germany, she did a lot of cleansings, especially to get rid of fungi. This problem was concerning her for many years, and nothing was helping her. So she received traditional treatment and treatment out of the box as well. So right now we shouldn't ask for some kind of medicine, but put our attention at the immunity. But in order for immunity to work correctly, to be able to deal with it, we need to do cleansings of the body. The first time when Olga encountered cleansings was in the beginning of the 90s. It wasn't widely known at this time, this topic, and not many people knew about it. But there was a friend of Olga who had found these traditional treatments, traditional way of cleansings. Right now it is known in Russia as the cleansing of Moritz. At the time back then, Olga was thinking, this sounds quite rough, maybe it's quite hard. And at the same time she was intensely practicing breathing. And breathing is a very strong tool in order to ignite the inner fire. So at the same time Olga was on raw food for quite a long time. And Olga was thinking that her diet and her practice would help her to ignite the fire. And at some time after practicing with breath, Olga suddenly felt quite bad. And after some time of practicing, a big bilirubin stone came out from her liver. Some people say it is wrong to call it a stone because it's kind of a liquid that's simply very solid. Anyway, it was quite big. We will continue to call it stone because this is not the question that has to be answered here. But this made Olga to think about the possibility of having more of these stones in her liver. And she needed a few days of intense practice with breath in order to exit one stone. So maybe it would be easier to do some cleansings in advance that would make this process faster, and after this start to work with breath. So she has done her first liver cleansing. And she felt very bad, but a huge amount of those stones came out. And Olga understood that she needs to cleanse more. In the end, she made 35 cleansings. Interesting is that from the first to the 10th cleansing, the stones had the size of the fingertips, so to say, of a bean. And from the 10th to the 15th cleansing, these stones became very big, very large. And she, one of these big stones, it was 4 centimeters in the size. So in the diameter was 4 centimeters of one of these stones. And after these cleansings, an interesting story started to develop. Back in school, when Olga was 10 or 11 years old, Olga had to make tests for long runs. And when Olga started to run and tried to run faster in order to get a better result, her liver gave certain signals, started to pain, and her body couldn't give the power that it needed. And then the doctor sent Olga to the medics, to the doctors, and asked them to be free Olga from taking part in the sports classes. And when Olga came to the doctors, they gave her in this approved, and she asked, "Why is it hurting? Why is it so hard for me to run?" The doctor said something very unclear about some acidic liquids that are produced during the movement in the muscles. But even later, when Olga was running or doing some exercises, she experienced this pain. And when the big stones started to come out, she felt very precisely the space where the pain came from. And she started to feel how it was moving inside of her. When it finally exited, she felt a feeling like there is a hole in this place where it moved through, and this feeling stayed for a few days. This sensation is similar to the feeling of a ring that you wear on your finger. Your nervous system simply gets used to a permanent disturbance. And when you take off the ring, you feel like there is something missing. It's oddly light, oddly pleasant. A few years before that, in Russia or in the Soviet Union, there was a very hard period, and no products were available. And only with certain cards, allowances, you could get products. One family could only get a certain amount of products. And Olga's mothers took canned goods with fish inside. And they were with certain ingredients and had a certain smell. And after 3 years, when Olga cleansed her liver for the first time, the first stones which came out, they had this certain smell of this fish in this canned goods. And interesting in all of it is also that when a big stone is exiting, Olga is feeling bad. But the second it exits Olga's body, the feeling, the condition changed immediately, and Olga started to feel better. And Olga understood that these stones are not only carrying physical pollution, but also energetical pollution. And they are affecting the biorhythm of the body very strong. And then in Russia a man appeared, his name was Gennady Malakhov, and he gathered a huge amount of different cleansings and methods in his books. And this book was very popular. And this man, he has a television show for many years right now. And when she read his book and she found this certain liver cleansing, and he recommended to drink apple juice 3 days in advance before doing the cleanse, and only after this to cleanse the liver, and at the same time to warm your liver every day for 1 hour, And at the day when you have the cleanse, so to say on the fourth day, you have to warm your liver for 4 days. And when in the next cleansings Olga started to apply this warming method, in a certain moment the liver relaxed, and Olga had the feeling like it started to breathe. It was a very pleasant and very unusual feeling. And this was a moment, so at the same time when her liver started to breathe, this was the time when the liver exited the most pollution. And after this, they became less and less. And in the end, even black solid came out. It is, everybody has this, it is black gall, but not every person reached this level of cleansing. But basically that's actually not gall. It looks more like oil. Yeah, it's like oil. It's like petroleum, you know. And after this exits, your condition changed a lot, and it is very clear how much better you feel. And it comes out in a form of black flaps, so to say, or clouds. And after this, an intense regeneration of the liver starts. When Olga was 18, doctors tested her, looked at her condition. And they told her after the check that she has a really big issue with her liver. And Olga had always a big mass, so she was always, yeah, she had a big weight. And when she did this test, the doctor said her that 1/3 of the liver became an adipose tissue, fat tissue, so it is, so to say, not functional. And after the 33rd cleansing, then from then on, no stones came out anymore. It is a very interesting condition. When Olga did the first cleansing, Olga felt very bad, and she had to force herself to drink the oil. But as the liver became cleaner, it became more and more of a pleasure to do this. No negative experience, no negative sensations, no pain, nothing at all, and not even at the next day. There was also a certain moment when the body, the liver, asked for this, and Olga did a few more cleansings in order to control, to check if indeed nothing will be coming out anymore. And nothing came out. And if Olga remembers correctly, after 5 years passed by from this time, Olga made another cleansing again, and nothing came out again. So she is quite sure that the liver is clean. And this is something that allowed Olga to make the transition, in her case, during 2 weeks. And over the span of a few years, Olga is saying one and the same thing. And she tries to explain this on her seminars, that in order to, if you want to make the transition to Breatharianism, in the first place you need a totally clean liver. And the biggest problem which her students, her pupils encounter, and the most unpleasant, and worst situation, is when a person applies Olga's method and is gaining results very fast, and then his weight starts to drop, and this means that, and on water, and this means that he has, that the process has started. His liver starts to clean. In these conditions is very painful, and it is a huge toxification. And at the same time, the person isn't eating anything. And logically, the toxification grows even bigger, so the person has to go back again in order to cleanse the liver. And this will take more time, because then he has to do the same things in order to come back to Breatharianism. So it's like you have to do a few transitions, and it's quite unpleasant also for the psychic state. So Olga is telling the people always that if your liver isn't clean enough, there's a high possibility that you will have to make steps back again. But after this method became popular, the method of cleansing we are talking about here, a lot of information came up. And mainly the official medicine tells the people that, or tells the people that it is a very bad way of cleansing, you shouldn't apply it. And in Russia, in television, they showed videos on television mainstream that told that have been telling the people about the negative results. And they told the people that nothing is coming out of the liver, there are no stones, but what is coming out is oil and lemon rubbed together, and that is what we call the stones. But Olga's personal experience and what she told right now is the opposite of this mainstream information. So once again, Olga was raw food eating for years, and she wasn't eating fish also for years, and yeah, logically. And the first stones which came out, as I said, had the smell of the fish that she was eating when she was younger. So to say that lemon and oil that rubs together is giving you the smell of fish is somehow not very logically. And secondly, after she has done the cleansings, it is now about 25 years ago, she never experienced this certain pain in her liver again when she's doing exercising or moving a lot. The third point is, if this would be rubbing together, then also on the 34th, 35th, and all the cleansings after this, there should be something coming out. In the end, nothing came out. And the most important argument for Olga is, or are, the experiences of her friends. There was a couple, and they wanted to give birth to a child. They decided to make this step very serious, and they cleansed their bodies. They became raw foodarian, and the most important, they have been practicing intensely pranic breathing. And in the system that Olga is giving, there are certain criteria for the health, for the state of the health. But to make this point right now clear, we have to say that in this certain criteria, your breath pause, so you pause your breath after a next normal exhalation should have a certain number of seconds. And I'm telling it again, after the exhalation and not before the inhalation or after the inhalation. And then depending on how the pause will grow or decline, we can say something about the physical state. And this girl, she reached a very high level, so she was healthy. And her friend reached the supernatural level, and so they understood that, they were ready to give birth. The whole time when the girl was pregnant, she was on raw food, and when the child was born, and this child is very interesting. Normally, babies, newborns, they have a quite red skin, and they are a little bit puffy. But this newborn had already muscles, and everybody was very surprised about this. If somebody who had told Olga this story, she wouldn't believe it, but she saw it. This baby was able to stand with 3 months. It's not like Olga is not saying that this child was able to stand for a long time, but if you take him and put him on his legs, he could stand. Of course, this child grew up with raw food. They didn't give him any greens, but they gave him fruits and different juices, and of course the milk from the mother. And once in a month, bilirubin from the body of this child came out once in a month. So in the poop, with the poop together. And when Olga tells this to somebody, and when Olga was telling this to doctors, for example, the doctors say that this child may have dysbiosis, and that's why the green poop may be green. This was not dysbiosis. Again, Olga saw this. It was indeed bilirubin that the liver threw out of the body of itself once every month. Why Olga is so sure about it is because the same thing happened with Olga. So after Olga cleans her liver completely, the liver continued cleansing itself regularly. These are the only examples when the liver is cleansing itself regularly from pollution, Olga and this child, without drinking oil and lemon. And another argument for the cleansing of the liver is that the very first stones which came out from Olga's body, the cleansing was the method of breathing, so she wasn't using any oil or lemon. It's another very serious argument that is not discussed anywhere. Aside from the cleansing with oil and lemon, there is one other cleansing, but it is not less effective. In a special way, you have to prepare oat. So there is no oil. It's like a liquid. This has to be drank in a certain way as well. In this way also a lot of those stones will be coming out. These are the factors that Olga can state from experience that it is working indeed, and all this mainstream talk is not, it's quite relative. And in the medicine there are a lot of arguments against this cleansing. Telling that big stones can get stuck in the body, and then you have to erase some tissues from the body in order to get this out. And Olga definitely agrees that this is a certain danger, and this indeed happens. But in the first place, most of the time the stones that get stuck are calcareous. You also need to take the preparation period in account. And Olga is we have to say very clear that Olga is against the action without preparation, without understanding of the process that lies ahead. In our generation there are a lot of calcareous tissues, even within the bodies of very young people. The first signals is discalories from the biliary tract. And sadly, people in very young age are already suffering from this. So a few years ago, it was like something that happens only when you grow older. That's why it is, Olga says that before you start with serious cleansings, you have to make an ultrasound check. And if they discover big calcareous stones, then you shouldn't start with the liver cleansing. And in these years, aside from the splitting up methods of these stones from outside the body, Olga found a very good solution in order to get rid from stones not only from the liver but also from the kidneys. And many friends have been experiencing this. And Olga, here it is, saxifraga, sounds better, and Olga has seen a lot of possibilities of using it. And Olga asked people who have done this treatment to show her the results, of these checks. And those people had results like there was a meat eater, and after 9 months of using this, all of the stones vanished. And if the people were Breatharian and have been warming up the liver in advance, the results were faster, came quicker. Even if the ultrasound check isn't showing any stones, and the person is older than 40 years, Olga recommends strongly to do the preparational method not 3 days but around 1 month, especially for women. It has to do with the ability of the muscles, which get a little bit weaker with the age. So if a person is doing sports, of course the body will be more powerful, more able to deal with these situations. And without exercising, also the body, the organs, and they may become weak as well in certain parts. That's why it is always better to make this safe and prepare in advance. And also one very important moment which people are often not taking into account is this moment is when people are told to use in advance before the cleansing antispasmodics. But this is something that you shouldn't do. A pressure should appear in order to push the stones through the way, on its path, on its way. So you drink if you drink the antispasmodics, then the necessary pressure may not occur, and this way the stone will stuck. That's why Olga is definitely against doing this. Olga already said that she personally preferred to drink as preparation 3 days grapefruit, juice from grapefruit, and after this to warm the liver. And right now there are a lot of drugs, and the sellers who are selling drugs, they tell people, oh, you are quite an old age, you are still doing the remedies, but here we have these effective drugs. And Olga also has pupils who have done this, and they shared their experience. And they said that the drugs, they may do something, but it is nothing compared to those remedies, because it's a big difference, a clear difference. You have also taken into account that in some cases, after you cleanse your liver, the weight may drop 1 kilogram or 1.5. Olga has an interesting case. A man had a very big weight, and after his 5th liver cleanse, his weight dropped for 40 kilograms, and his weight became normal. Before this, he simply couldn't lose weight and was fighting this. The situation here is that we try to solve some problems, to make certain steps, but the liver isn't clean and is holding all this situation together. And this goes also to arthritis and arthrosis. With 35 years, Olga had big arthritis and arthrosis, and she couldn't walk. And these problems went away, so Olga has very healthy joints right now. For the 35 cleanses, they took 3 years. She wasn't doing it every month. Sometimes she had long periods between those. And sometimes she didn't understood that the bad condition of her liver was connected or was coming from the fact that there was a lot of pollution. That's why it took so long. But when the process of drinking the oil and the lemon became like brushing the teeth, so very easy. So after this after the process became very easy and easy for Olga, she made the cleansings more often. So when in the beginning it was rather seldom, then in the end they happened quite often. People are asking, how often can I cleanse my liver? And we have these open talks. So we can so Olga can tell the people her main discovery, her main idea. We can learn to hear and identify the impulses from the body, and this will be the best information for us. because we are so differently in our conditions and sensations and what we are in our situations, that if we are to apply a certain scheme or to follow a certain idea, it would be wrong. Olga had a friend, and she has done the liver cleans 7 days in a row, and her body exited the, especially the calcareous stones. Olga was clearly against her approach. She wouldn't risking this much. She would have done preparation. She has done this, and it is good that everything went fine. But if somebody else would have been doing it, maybe it would turn out in some other way. But the woman was prepared enough, and she was sure about her action. So if it is written in books that you need to do this once in 3 months, then Olga cannot agree on this. Maybe a person needs it every month. If you feel that your organism is strong enough, maybe you can do it every 2nd week. And another interesting moment, in the beginning Olga was cleansing with olive oil. And one day Olga couldn't find the olive oil. Wasn't available, simply wasn't available anywhere. So she took the most simplest oil, and the cleansings went better with this deodorized, simple, cheap oil. More came out because it is more liquid-like, it is more fluid. It is oil that you use for cooking or for frying. So Olga went into the store and took the brightest oil. And later she found mustard oil. And at this time Olga wasn't cleansing her liver anymore, but her students tried this and they liked it very much. It is bitter already by itself, so it is stimulating already the liver. But Olga does not recommend to start the first cleansing with mustard oil. So it is best to buy the simplest, brightest oil that's used for frying. And it is also important, if you are drinking the liquids, it is advisable to warm them up a little bit. There's another important moment. You take 3 sips of oil and then 3 sips of the lemon, and then you have to sit straight to straighten your shoulders and let the burp come out. Many people who are doing this, they say that they cannot use it because they feel very sick of it. But if you let the air out, then the sickness goes by and the cleanse can continue normally. It is also very good that after the cleansing with the lemon, in the first place, if you have an empty glass aside from you, and you can spit there this calcareous spit that will come up. Olga would even recommend you to put a little bit water inside the glass, because it is so thick, this spit. Take simply something that you can throw away after this. The point is that if you don't spit this out, this will stay in your body and you don't need this. So after you spit out and you feel sickness, you still experience sickness, you can take sea salt. If you don't have sea salt, you can simply take just simple salt. And then you can also take ginger, dried ginger, and chew on it a little bit. And then sickness also passes by. And another interesting moment, that before you start drinking the oil, you have to make an enema. You have definitely to make an enema. And this enema shouldn't be cold, it should also be warm. Not hot, just warm. Usually Olga started to drink oil around 9 p.m. So she was on the 4th day, she was after the preparation, she was drinking grapefruit in the morning. If you are to eat something on this day, then it is best to eat some kind of a green salad. If you are not used to fast, then you can drink more juice on at around 2 o'clock, but not eat anymore, nothing solid. And then at 6 o'clock you put on the warmer. Then 9 o'clock you start to drink the oil, and you continue to use the warmer. And it is advisable to sleep after this. If you're doing it for the first times, take into account that you will feel very bad in the next day, so make this to be a free day, so you don't need to go to work, for example. And in the morning after the cleanse, Olga recommends to eat 2 big apples in order to push this all through faster. And also after you wake up after the cleanse, to do another enema. And after we finish this now with the liver, Olga tells us how to do the enema. And interesting is that the stones from the liver may also exit in the evening. And in some cases, when people have prepared their organism quite good, the stones may even exit at the next day. The stones may exit at the next day without any additional oil or oil and lemon. If the intestines is clean, then in Olga's case the stones start to exit around like 4 hours after the drinking of oil. And Olga wasn't using enema at a certain period, and this was a quite quick process, so the body reacted to this very quickly. Concerning the affirmation of Moritz, Olga knows thousands of people who have done this cleanse just a few times and are still alive. The idea still is useful, and Olga is supporting the idea that you need to cleanse your liver totally. Yes, everybody have these stones in the liver, and Olga encountered a few times a situation like when people are quite thin and so dry, so to say, or a person has a weak body, he had tuberculosis, and they have cleansed their body, their liver a few times, and nothing came out. So they thought maybe we have nothing within us because nothing is coming out. One of Olga's friends made 5 or 6 cleansings, and nothing came out. And he had a tuberculosis and had a quite dry constitution. And Olga asked him to do this one more time, but drink more juices and cleanse and warm the body, the liver, more than usual. And if then nothing comes out, then she won't tell him anything anymore. But he has done it, and they came a huge amount of stones. Made the cleansing a few times after this, and he achieved quite good results. Sadly, but yes, even after you have been a plant-based eater for years. And many raw foodarian told Olga that they are raw foodarian for many years, and they are clean, they have to be clean. And when they finally then decided to do a liver cleanse, still stuff came out. The only thing that Olga wants to say for those people who have been approaching certain diets, that the cleansing is happening faster. Maybe you don't need to cleanse it 30 times, but it is enough to cleanse it 5 times. And there is an interesting book that came out, and Olga believes it came out in the year 2000, and if she remembers quite, his name is Alexei Shidilov. And since he was living in Belgium and published this book in Belgium, and he is a doctor, and from his point of view, from a medical point of view, he wrote a lot about the cleansing of the liver. And this is the best book that Olga had seen about the cleansing. If we are talking about becoming breatharian, yes, definitely you have to cleanse your liver. This is the main problem with all the people who start to do the raw food or to transit from meat eating to vegetarian food. This is the main problem, the main reason why people are experiencing cold lack of all the elements which the people need. All these problems are connected with polluted liver and intestines. And maybe 20 years passed by now. Soon 30 years have passed by. And all in these years, Olga tried to discuss this topic in many ways, in forums, on television, and yes, gave a lot of talked a lot about this topic, so you can make books out of it. But still the same questions and mistakes are done. It depends on the bacteria. And if you look at the videos which are already translated, then 4 years ago Olga has made a video. It is called "The Mystery of Breatharianism is Revealed and the Debate is Over." And she stated there her opinion or the idea openly that the breatharian process is based on the microflora. And not only her personal experience, but also the experience of her pupils is proving this. That's why Olga took a dog into her life. Since she doesn't have a possibility to prove this method in an institute, she tested it on her dog. And Olga has a beautiful dog. And that's also the reason why she took such a big dog, Labrador. And this breed has certain likes of diet for food, and so the situation may be complex in order to see what will happen and in order to see how the process will be going on. And breatharianism, as for today, is such a clear process to Olga that she thinks, when she hears about all the other methods and possibilities that are offered for transition to breatharianism, like breathing with love or doing meditation or many other approaches, that she thinks this should be told to her dog. Breatharianism gives the possibility to be more sensitive, because a clean body is perceiving the information around it and the given situation more adequate. And definitely you need to understand the processes of transition to breatharianism. And when Olga is giving her seminar, she is telling the people that there are 9 certain steps that everybody goes through on the transition. So with somebody these steps may be longer, with some other person they may be shorter. But you cannot jump over or skip some steps. You need to go through everyone. And maybe, yes, as I said, with some person it takes half a year, with somebody else 1 year. But every stage has a beginning and a clear end. For example, the tongue has to be completely clean, and it is very clear. And indeed, this can open up the chakras, and Kundalini can rise from this. But this doesn't mean that this process is mutual, so to say, that if you open your chakras that you become breatharian. Olga knows enough people who have been practicing yoga for long enough, so their chakras opened and their Kundalini raised and they experienced all of it. But they are not breatharian. And how many yogis are in, and great masters are in other parts of the world who also are doing their energetical practices but are not breatharian. And Olga also knows many breatharians who never have been doing some kind of sports or yoga. If we are to list the steps right now, we have to explain them. Otherwise, they are not completely understood. And this is what we are telling and making in the webinar. And this takes hours. It lasts like 5 hours in order to be sure that the people understand it and make it correctly. So if we are to state them here, it will open a lot of possibilities to make interpretations and mistakes. We don't have the time to explain every step here. And by the way, the bigger number of the known breatharians at this time, they are actually eating something or drinking something. So for example, They have been drinking juice always, but they are doing breatharian processes. And since these people are liquidarian, they have to tell you something about spirituality in order to make the teaching. Tell you about divine law, also to tell you how to breathe with love. And the best thing would be to tell you about the 33rd octave. This wouldn't understand anybody. But if real problems occur, the people are told you haven't been meditating enough, you haven't reached divine love. Olga is not only receiving letters from people from those lectures, but also people who are coming here, they share experience and they tell similar things. When people attend this and step in contact with Olga, they tell her about their problems. So in this video that Olga put online a few years ago, she was saying that you need to grow a certain kind of microflora. So normal microflora, which is known to the doctors, to the medical world, to us as well. This microflora is used to nourish itself with cellulose tissues. And the main argument is in this talk, how does a breatharian nourish himself if no cellulose is entering his body? And Olga always gives an answer, gives a question back to this question, that we have not only on our skin but also in the slime a lot of microfloras. For example, in the slime in the nose, or in the slime in the vagina, or on the slime head of the penis. And how are you nourishing this? Are you worried about how you have to bring cellulose to these areas? So we have to adapt the microflora not to nourish itself from the cellulose, but to nourish itself from the discharge, from the secretion from the body itself and from the slime. And then a symbiotic relationship takes place. The body gains clean amino acids, and we have 3 kilograms of bacteria in our intestines of different kinds. There are about 200 different bacteria, microfloras. So we need a microflora that can nourish itself by using the secretion of the body itself, of the body, and cleans the body at the same time. And this way the body will produce all the amino acids that it needs by itself. And this goes not only to breatharians, but also for people who are on the raw food diet. So Olga knows a lot of stories when people have been on raw food for many years, and then they found negative results from this concerning their health. The problem is not with raw food. The problem is that no symbiotic relationship took place between the microflora and the new diet. This experience, Olga went through this in the 90s. In the moment when Olga adapted her microflora, she stopped freezing and she was able to swim in cold water, and her skin was warmed by the circulation of blood much better. So she was able to, or she is able to go out in the winter with very light clothes. Before this, they were quite weak with raw food, the raw food diet, even after 3 years on this. And this theory you can prove medically, so you can prove it scientifically. And once again, Olga is ready and willing to go to a medical investigation or to NASA and to present not a spiritual theory on breatharianism, but a quite physiological. Again, since Olga has done these experiments with animals, this is out of question. So Olga is stating that breatharianism is full-fledged meat nourishment. So the body is able to receive all the necessary amino acids. So imagine we are to take 50% of our microflora away. After one day, so after 24 hours, it will recover itself back to 100%, which is around 3 kilograms, let's say. And these amino acids, these proteins, it will be broken up into glucoses and water. That's why when Olga was living 4 months without water, she wasn't experiencing any desire for it. So Olga understands quite well where water comes from. So this process is quite clear to Olga once again. I want to tell in this moment about a person from America. So somehow he found out about Olga and contacted me. He wanted to know more about her. And his first question, all of his questions were like, you are breatharian, right? So how can you prove it? And we didn't understood each other very good, because I told him that from our point of view, I am doing cycling. I personally, when I was speaking with him, I told him I'm doing a cyclic starvation. So 1 or 2 days I'm dry, and then I'm using liquids to wash myself out, and so I'm drinking a lot. So basically, I'm kind of a liquidarian, cyclic starvation, but from my point of view, I am not a breatharian, because I definitely still use food to nourish myself, use products to nourish myself. So I'm not a breatharian. And I explained a little bit of the process that Olga is telling you here now to him. What he responded was that he is a breatharian as well, and he can prove it. But he couldn't he couldn't tell me how he is going to prove it. Everything that he told me is that from his point that he is drinking juices every day, normally, and this is breatharianism for him. So we have, so to say, ideas about this, which goes maybe maybe we just want sometimes to have good feelings in this, to reach good feelings by using this, and not only what it, and are not interested in what it really is. Okay, this is a short example that I wanted to tell. And when symbiosis in the microflora takes place, and there are no problems with skin, nails or something else, because this is clean vitamin B. So this topic goes not only for breatharianism, but also for vegetarians and raw foodarians and liquidarians. But people are told about divine situations, divine beings, are told divine gods and goals. The main goal is to trigger positive emotions by doing this. And Olga already said that in Europe there is a movement widely spread right now to say that if you are eating not every day, so if you are cycling, doing pauses around a few days or 1 day between meals, that you are then breatharian. And if you are liquidarian, you also are breatharian. We have to say here very clear that indeed this is a very good diet, so to say. It is a light and healthy way. It is a lighter diet, a lighter way of nourishing, and if the body is adapted to this, then this is very good for your health and spiritual growth. But Olga is always saying that the transition to breatharianism is characterized by the fact that a person does not eat at least 60 days and is not losing weight, so, and logically not drinking juices, no teas, no other liquids, because if it's sweet, it has glucoses, and this supports and nourishes your body, and you can live your whole life like this. But this is not breatharianism. But Olga's method is built on three main views. The first is energetical, the second is physical, and the third is psychological. And you cannot ignore not even one of these points. And of course, if you are doing something to support it, some spiritual exercise, for example, then this is something. This is not what Olga means. But Olga is saying that speculation with affirmations is happening, and people are told that breatharianism is a divine process. But the problems are quite physiological, and this creates danger. And Olga wants to say that she knows enough examples that after the transition to breatharianism, indeed their energetical systems opened and their chakras activated. And if the chakras were open and the person is practicing energetical exercises, then this indeed can help on the transition to breatharianism and can help fight the toxification. But this is not a condition. It is not a thing that must definitely happen. In the 90s, basically, Olga and her group, they did transit. But since they did not understood this process, the psychological transition did not happen. And they had the idea that now they are not eating 1 week or 2 weeks, now they have to eat something. That's why they never completely transited. Olga would say yes. From judging from her experience with thousands of people, she would say yes. But the problem, the main obstacle, so to say, is a little bit different. There we need to put more understanding to it, and we will put our focus once again on it. You need to grow such a microflora that is adapted at your lifestyle. So if you are a raw foodarian, your microflora has to be adapted to raw food. And if you are going to be breatharian, then you need to adapt your microflora to the absence of cellulose, so the microflora can nourish itself by the leftover from the daily processes of the maintenance of the body. And if you have pathogenic flora, of course problems occur. But there have to be a second process. This goes in the opposite direction. The body has to learn to use the amino acids from the microflora. This way the microflora is used to get amino acids from the digested food. Given the point that part of Olga's method of transitioning is built on liquidarianism, it makes this step makes the process less painful, less problematic. Aside from this, there are many other moments which you need to learn to understand and to live through them. So if it would be so easy just to drink enough juice and then slowly to stop using anything at all, and then you would transit to breatharianism, then we would have a lot less talk about it. But it's not like this. There are other moments that have to be in place. And after Olga's method became popular, she gained statistics, and because of this she had to adapt her method to the she had to rearrange her method. And not many people know that since we are eating that we have edema in our brains, and this edema goes away after 3 months, and this affects the psychological, physiological and energetical state. This is going away after 3 months, but people are told to starve dry or fast dry for 3 days, and then do juices, and then do diluted juices or something like this, and after 8 or 9 days you are complete. In any way, as long as official medicine does not start to research on this question, yes, as long as they don't put attention at this question, there will be a lot of different methods, ideas, interpretations of this process of breatharianism, and these will be harming the process itself, so disinformation will take place. Because it is always easy to say that if the scientists are not finding these higher energies that we are talking about, it doesn't mean that they are not existing, so continue breathing with love. Olga is drinking water, and Olga's whole life she is very bad with traveling, so after she travels somewhere she feels not so good, and her sensitivity rises or is alerted after the flight. And in order to slow down her sensitivity or yes, reduce the tension, she drinks coconut water. And maybe in the first day after the flight she is using this. Maybe a second day, quick enough, she adapts to the new environment and goes away from the coconut water. And she wants to return to the regime without water. As soon as a person uses only water, a very strong cleansing of the body is still going on. And the question about your condition here is not the important one, because in any way you will not feel very good. So on one side the emotions, on the other side the overall condition of the health, and of course the rearrangement of the psychic conditions. And here you shouldn't apply your focus on the overall condition, but on the objective results. Your weight, your blood flow, your condition of the skin, and in the first place, of course, the weight, always the weight, because if the weight is dropping, this is not breatharianism. And after this, when you enter the dry regime, one more major cleansing will happen. And here is interesting that the weight can even grow. So at this moment you are not eating anymore, but even if you are not drinking water, your weight may go up. And this is a time when the edema goes away. But it is individual process, and to say something more specific is complicated. It is connected not only to the fact, due to the fact if a person is eating or not. There is one problem that goes deeper. That's the amount of chemicals in the body. And fasting will have a hard time by getting rid of it. So if organic pollution is being eaten by the body, then chemical pollution the body needs to exit it. And yes, in some moments it needs to be burned. That's why the system of Olga, the method, is built on these two, flushing and burning. And sadly we don't have much time this time anymore. So right now we are going to focus on a very important topic. And Olga tells a lot of things that people never heard of before. And what Olga will tell now is probably such a thing. It is about the gel in the body. So this gel cannot be exited from the body at all. This you can only burn. And when people are working on their seminars with energetical processes, on the Tantra, for example, and then they experience this jelly-like substances starts to there is no conflict with food. The only conflict that's going on is in the head. So any kind of relapse, so to say, any kind of frustration or disruption or failure in the process are connected to the fact that instead of feeling the steps which are necessary to be done, the person forces his ideas. So it is the same process. If you hold your breath and then you inhale again, then your inhalation will be much stronger and faster. So this method is not built on fasting. Human stops to take anything into him and goes over to only water, because the body simply declines any kind of food. And in this case there are no failures on the process. But if you make some ideas and they are not matching the real state condition of the body, then the more you are tensing, the further back you have to return. The point here is that in the evening the level of melatonin is dropping, and this awakens the desire to food. That's why many people are eating before sleep. And if your system is not balanced yet, then Olga is recommending you to eat in the morning. Simple thing is to learn not to eat after 4 p.m. In the beginning it is recommended to stop eating after 6. The point here is to make sure that you have no conflict with food. But by doing so you can overload your nervous system and bring disturbance to your digestional system. So you can eat in the morning and make the last meal during the day before 4 o'clock. And after some time you get used to this, and then you simply will not be needing to eat anything in the evening. And anyway, Olga is against any kind of starvation that is coming from your ideas. So the body has to say that it doesn't want to eat anymore. And Olga knows examples from people that people are putting something in and the body doesn't even want to chew it. So the mouth is blocked. The body isn't going to take it inside. It's a big topic about intermittent fasting, and we have been talking about it last time. Olga is against intermittent fasting. She is against every kind of idea concerning the physiology. But this topic is discussed on the last open talk, and also on the in other videos Olga states this. So the next topic will be concerning the breath and the cleansing of the intestines. It may be that we don't have enough time to complete the topic on breath next time, so we will have to stretch it as well. It is very important to understand what pranic breathing is. Okay, and the last thing that I want to tell, it has something to do with cleansing and with breath. It is an experience of mine, and it is an example, so you can understand how, or get an idea, impression how the cleansing with breath is going on, is working. So we have a certain disbalance in our body between CO2 and oxygen. We have too much oxygen because we are breathing too deep, and the CO2 cannot come up with making use of it. So as the oxygen, as too much oxygen enters our blood flow, we will talk about it next time more exactly, but to make this picture short, because there is an overload of oxygen and there is not enough time. It cannot deliver the oxygen to the cell in order to gain energy from there on. So what does the body make? The body tenses the vessels, the blood vessels, and they are shrinking in certain areas of the body. This way the body tries to make the flow of the blood slower, and this way to have more time to obtain the necessary, to deliver oxygen to the cell. And by doing this, not only the vessel tenses, but the next are the muscles that are tensing as well. So, and the tension of the muscles tenses the skeleton, the body, the physical, the form, the behavior of the skeleton of the physical body. And this way we can perceive disruptions, disbalance, and the patterns of the body, of the of our of the physical body. So and certain tensions, of course, just like in other vessels, bring disbalances along. And by working with breath, we can relax this and give our body as a possibility to use the elements that we receive through air. Please tell me, was it useful for you? Was it interesting today? And would you like to, do you have questions for next time or suggestions? Thank you very much for your assistance from both of us. With you, we wouldn't have the possibility to share this.